I have been oversharing myself on the internet for over 15 years. But what I want to share with you today is my grandfather, Reverend Caleb Elroy Sheichels. He was a Baptist minister his entire life. He started off kind of fire and brimstone. And over the course of his years, like a river rock, he softened and got into love, peace, Zen. He fought for civil rights. He fought for gay rights. He really walked the walk. This picture was hugely significant to me growing up, because this is my grandpa with Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. is like a mythical figure. He's like Santa Claus or Godzilla. But he's not. He's a real guy, which means that great people are not them. It's us. My grandpa was an incredibly kind man, a selfless man, and a humble man. I traditionally have not had that reputation. When I discovered the internet in the mid-90s, I became obsessed with broadcasting myself to the world, sharing my story, being the protagonist of my own epic myth. Now, when you do that, people will call you names. So I claimed that name as best I could. Samuel Donaldson, the broadcaster, said this about me at the Webby Awards.
Gotta look at that guy. I mean, he loves himself. I myself have never been in that category. What an ego.
He was kind. At one point, I became so obsessed with sharing my life that I moved into a webcam house with 27 cameras, 24/7, streaming to the web. Everything I ate, everything I said, every shower was live for the world to see. And while I was living there, well, a lot of things happened. But while I was there during 9/11. And so the focus went to that. And if you remember, there was, after the horror, there was this brief period of hope. And there was this belief, this optimism that maybe we can see ourselves as a world community. Maybe we can see ourselves as brothers and sisters. Maybe we can get out of the rut of our behavior and actually change. And not soon after, Bush went on TV and said, let's get back to shopping. And the news went back to its old story about us versus them, us versus them, us versus them. It's fear. And here I was living in this webcam house where we could see the entire world one-on-one. The cams, the internet, this new tool that was growing was showing us that it's not an us versus them world. There is no them. It's just us. So how can we put a news story out there? So we tried something. Once a week, we would get in front of our webcams and tell people all over the world to get in front of their webcams, hug themselves, and just think, no matter what you hear on the news, the world would rather hug you than hurt you. And it was a beautiful idea, and it didn't catch on at all. Until about 3 years later, I was visiting my grandfather after my grandmother passed. And he'd helped thousands of people go through transition. He was a minister. But this was different. This was his partner in 65 years. This was his driver. And it was his life partner. When I went to go see him, I'm not sure how he was going to be doing. I went, hey, Grandpa, how you doing? He said, did you know that for $4 I can get a shuttle anywhere in the city? I said, so I went down to Save-On, I went to the woman behind the counter, and I gave her a list, and I said, excuse me, my wife has recently changed her residence to heaven. Could you help me find a few things? And I was like, man, Grandpa, you always help me see the glass is half full. And he leaned back, and he looked me in the eyes, and he said, it's a beautiful glass. And I felt like I was hit with electricity. I feel like I knew the reason why I had learned to do all that. I learned to broadcast the world so I could take the microphone and give it to this beautiful old man. And for the next 3 years, every Tuesday, I would go to his retirement village, we'd have lunch, and then go upstairs, fire up his webcam, and co-host HugNation. And I would interview him, and he would tell stories, he would share his day. The hug became almost secondary. It became a recalibration, because what he was sharing was not words and stories. What he was really sharing was this intense state of gratitude, this intense appreciation of every moment, every meal, every interaction, every sunset, every tree. We did that for several years. And when he became a little sick in his 94th year, he spent a lot of time in the hospital. So we decided to keep broadcasting from there. We used the hospital Wi-Fi, fire up the webcam. And one time I went to go see him, and he wasn't doing very good at all. He had things stuck in his arm. Had a hard time speaking. And the first thing out of his mouth when I went into his room was, "The doctors treat me so good here. Modern science is amazing. What an adventure." Seriously? That's your story? Well, you've got every reason in the world to complain, and what your story, what you're focused on, is all that's amazing. That kind of gratitude was what Rob Bresney would call pronoia, the opposite of paranoia. The belief that the universe is conspiring in your favor. Yeah! And I wish that Grandpa was around all the time to remind us of that, but I'm going to give you a little trick to snap him into Grandpa mode. It's called crap or cone. At every moment in your life, you're holding an ice cream cone, and you got one foot in dog crap. At every moment, you got aches and pains, you got people that don't like you, you got work to be done. And every moment in your life, you've got laughing babies, your favorite music, sunsets, all the time. And the degree in which you enjoy your life is vastly determined by where you place your focus. And I'm not saying that you don't pretend like you have no problems. If you want to take a moment to chip away at it, or notice where the crap is so you don't avoid it, please do the work. My grandpa wrote a letter to his congresspeople every day. When he learned he could email, oh, he was so excited. But the problem is that too often we set down our cone to go, "You have got to smell this. Come here. What? Oh." And we encourage each other at the water cooler. In fact, if you talk about your cone too much, people go, "Cocky bastard." But when you can start practicing this, when you start recalibrating your baseline, suddenly the world's amazing. People will say, "Yeah, you got to be more realistic." Realistic? There is an infinite number of things in reality. There's a finite amount of moments that we're alive. So being disciplined about where we face our focus means everything. When you get to that point where you are focused on your cone because you find evidence of whatever you're looking for, you get to a place where you are rich. Getting rich, the fastest way to do it, appreciate what you have. I don't care what you got in the bank account. If you feel like, you're poor. And once you get into that place of abundance, you're ready for the next thing that Grandpa tried to teach me. And that is gifting. The last few years of his life, every time it was time for a birthday or Christmas, he would give me a gift for someone else. One year he gave me a goat to a family in South America. He gave me a card saying, "Congratulations, this family is now going to have all these resources." I was like, yay. One year, he got me a human slave, where he bought a woman out of slavery. And I got a note that a woman was being rehabilitated to do certain work in Bangkok. And I appreciated it, and I knew that it was the right thing to do, and I felt better about myself. Would have loved an iPod. I didn't really get gifting until I started going to Burning Man. I've been going for the last 14 years. And Burning Man is this temporary city that's governed by its own set of rules. There's no commerce there. There's only gifting. And when you first hear that, as I did, you think barter. But barter is exactly the same as our current system of commerce. You trade equal things. You've got a certain amount of wheat, I trade it for that much corn. We both feel good about it, it's equal. +1, -1, the sum is 0. Gifting is like Christmas morning, when a little kid tears open a present. Wow! +1. You feel so good that you... +1, +1, +1, +2. Total game changer. The actual game changer is when you realize you don't have to do it on Christmas. And then you start to crave it, and you realize the person in front of you in line doesn't have enough for their second item. You go, yes, Dad, here's a couple dollars. Easy, that was a +1, +1. Now, when gifting gets too much, the problem is people will say, yeah, that's fine when we're out in the desert with playing with a bunch of hippies. Or if you're a retired guy, you're living in a retirement village, but how about the real world? And I thought about that a lot myself too. When I went to my high school reunion, a bunch of guys from very different experiences all came together and realized that we had a lot of common ground in gratitude and in gifting, and decided, let's just experiment and go downtown and hand things out. And I knew that I'd feel better about myself. I had no idea how good I would just feel. So we said, let's do this every first Saturdays. So we started bringing things downtown, extra clothes, extra food, care packs, clean socks. And because I overshare, I put it on Facebook. And so the next month we had 10 more people, the next month 10 more people, and without even meaning to, we suddenly have this awesome charity called First Saturdays, where we go down, and our whole goal is not to fix anybody, not to save anyone. Our goal is to take the shortest route to getting happier, which is doing nice things for other people. It becomes this whole new model of service. For me, I always thought service was something you do because you owe it for all your blessings. Not with this way to think about it. Suddenly with gifting, service is something you do without sacrifice. Service is something you do selfishly. You can be a cocky bastard and do it because it's the easiest way to get happy. We have so much. It's hard to get yourself happy. The old model of adding to you, getting more things, more status, whatever. We have massive TVs. You gotta get a bigger TV? You wanna get the newer phone? You wanna get another pair of shoes? But when you learn that the target zone of making yourself happier is not this, but it's multiplied times billions, the world changes. And you can be self-centered and still make the world a better place, not because you're trying to, because when you get in tune with the true self, your divine self, your loving self, you're connected. And making you joyful makes me joyful. I wish he saw me to get it. I wish he was here. And in a big way, he is. Because after he died, I took a little bit of his ashes, bought an RV, painted it pink, and it had his little ashes mixed into the paint job. So now, as I go on adventures, and every time we go downtown to help those less fortunate, he's there. And if you look outside, he's there, parked outside. I want to close with the most tasty serving of cone that I know, and that's a couple minutes with a special Halloween Hug Nation with my grandpa.
But we're growing, and I still have hope for my world that, like you, as you hug me and I hug you, in my imagination and my mind, we're tied together. We're all brothers and sisters on this planet, and we must somehow learn to live together. You only live once.
That's right.
Enjoy the color and let yourself go in the joy and the experience of being a privilege to live in a day when you can do this kind of thing. Reach around the world. We live in a world where we need to get positive about things and rejoice in the gift of life. That's right.
So once a week, we try to remind ourselves
We do.
to
Hug you.
to hug one another and focus on the good. So let's give ourselves a hug.
And you hug yourself. My brother, my sister, we are related. And mind is God. Mind, that's part of whatever the creative is. That's, you and I are part of it. And we have the power to choose and to think good thoughts after whatever creative force made us.
When you sink into gratitude and recognize the gift, when you practice gifting and feel the connection, the world is a cone, and we all have the ability to be great men and women. Thank you.